Hello, everyone. I'm Farzan Ahmed with the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission. I also serve as the chair of the IBTTA Global Road Safety Committee. Last year, we held our first Global Road Safety Week, and I'm happy to say that this has become a tradition now, and this year we are commemorating our second annual Global Road Safety Week. Last year, when we started, our theme was Be Safe Together, because it takes all of us who are on the road to work together to keep ourselves and each other safe. And this year, our theme is Be the Highway Hero. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me what a highway hero is. And a highway hero is anyone who's on the highway, who's on the road, who says, today, I will be intentional and deliberate about keeping myself and everybody around me safe. So all of us can be a highway hero. It is my pleasure today to have a conversation with someone who is a highway hero. Michelle May is with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and she's the program manager for the statewide safety program. But Michelle is also known in the entire state of Ohio as the First Lady of Safety. And that is something she is very proud of and takes very seriously.
Absolutely.
I've had the pleasure of having worked with Michelle for a very long time. We have worked together as colleagues on projects, on communication, on safety, and on many things. Michelle, it's great to see you again after a long time.
Good to see
Now,
you too.
now that
Long
we are in
history,
very
Farzan.
different
Yeah.
organizations, but it's great to have this conversation. So I want to first ask you, since you
Yeah.
are the Ohio First Lady of Safety, how did you become the First Lady of Safety? What brought you here?
Wow. It's been an interesting journey, but if I could boil it down to one thing, it would be I had a mentor, and I think she's a mutual friend, Jennifer Townley.
Of course.
Uh, she was a mentor to me in the department, and years ago, she asked me to join the highway safety program. She was reconstituting the program. It had a lot more focus. It had a lot more good data. They were doing great things. And I think she recognized that I had some good communication skills, good leadership skills that could help grow the program. And as she moved up the organization, as she should, I moved into this role, and I've been in this role for 20 years. And it's by far of my 37 years at ODOT, it's the greatest job I've ever had. Love this job. It has a lot of meaning to me, both professionally and personally.
You talked about communication and leadership, and we're talking about safety. Michelle, tell me the importance of communication when it comes to safety.
God, there's this great quote that I think about so often, and it's your program, your project, your strategy is only as good as your ability to communicate it, and being able to clearly communicate to people why things are important and how they can get involved. That's what moves things from ideas to action and to progress. I believe very strongly in that.
I believe what you're talking about right now is what motivated another very good friend of mine who is in the
Yeah.
industry with us in IBTTA, and that is my counterpart in Greece, a gentleman by the name of Bill Halkias, who was the IBTTA president last year and who decided it was time for us to come together and talk about safety. And that was his message too. We need to communicate
Yep.
this. We need to spread the word. So it's a leadership role that all of us can take.
Absolutely.
The ODOT manages one of the biggest highway systems in the country. I believe the second highest number of bridges and
Mhm.
one of the third, maybe the third or the fourth highest number of miles when it comes to interstate roadway. What is, you're talking about projects, you're talking about Brent Spence Bridge, you're talking about all these huge projects that ODOT does. But where does safety fall into the ODOT mission and the ODOT culture?
So there's no question safety is embedded into everything we do. And that was a message. It's been a message for a very long time, but it's certainly a message that has been particularly a focus for the department since the beginning of the DeWine administration. So Governor DeWine, longtime safety advocate in his many roles in government over the years, he actually lost a daughter to a car crash some 30 some years ago. And so he's tried to infuse and place a priority on safety wherever he's gone. So day one, when he took office back in 2019, uh, at the Ohio Department of Transportation, he made it very clear that we were going to make safety a priority. So we try and embed safety into our guidelines, our daily practices, our investments, what investments we prioritize, what types of safety treatments we incorporate into our projects, really focused on proven safety countermeasures that have been backed by national research. So he has made it a priority both in terms of culture, but also in terms of process, practice, and investments. If you were to look at our safety investments as a state, pre-DeWine administration, and as we finish this DeWine administration, we've doubled and in some cases tripled our safety investments. We went from a $86 million program to a $186 million annual program. And that's just specifically for safety improvements. That doesn't even count all the safety improvements that we make as a part of our resurfacing or rehabilitation or bridge jobs. So culture, investments, smart investments embedded within this department and a huge focus for us. And as a result, we're seeing lower traffic deaths for the past 3 years. We're making progress.
As you said, it's personal to the governor because his daughter did die in a car crash. And since it's personal, he did make that a hallmark of his administration. And Michelle, as you know, my background, I worked in construction for the first 15 years of my career, and I saw a lot on the road.
Yeah.
And it's personal to me as well. I get that because I've seen it. Let's give me some examples on the safety program. That safety program that ODOT does is a very important program. And as you said, that safety program is separate from all the safety that comes from your other projects. So tell me specifically a little bit about that safety program and what kind of projects you do with that.
Yep. So there's no question in Ohio, we have one of the largest DOT-led safety programs in the country. Again, $186 million. That feeds a lot of safety improvements. But over the years, what I'm most proud of is not just the size of the investment, but how we're investing the dollars. So we've gotten very savvy over the past several years, really focusing on diversifying the program. So we have spot safety locations where we're reacting to severe crashes that are occurring and trying to fix or address those locations with engineering improvements, education, and enforcement. We also have a systemic or risk-based program where we're not waiting for a fatality to happen here, here, and here. We're looking for certain roadway features where serious crashes or certain roadway types where serious crashes are more likely to occur. And we're making proactive safety improvements on those roadways. I'll give you an example. We get a lot of roadway departure crashes in our state. And so what we try and do is find the highest risk roads and see if we can add things like centerline rumble stripes, edgeline rumble stripes, whether or not we can add some shoulder area so that when people leave the roadway, they have some room to recover to avoid a crash. So being smarter about those investments. I'd also like to note that we think a lot about research-based safety improvements. So years ago, we did a lot of intersection-related projects, and there were a lot of turn lanes and signals, and that certainly improved safety at Ohio intersections. But over time, we learned that roundabouts could be a great investment. Slows traffic that's entering an intersection, eliminates very severe high crash left angle crashes. And over time, we've really become almost a roundabout first state in terms of our safety investments. Choosing to put in roundabouts because we know from the research that if we put in a roundabout, it is highly unlikely you ever see a very serious crash at that location ever again. We probably funded about 90 some roundabouts just through our safety program over the past 2.5 years. We just recommended number 26. So thinking smarter about how we make our safety investments. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we've really tried to promote multimodal safety. We have lots of communities now where people are walking and biking and they're riding buses. And we've been very thoughtful about trying to increase our investments in bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, trying to, make sure that people are safer, whether they're driving, walking, or biking. We've also thought a lot lately about how we design our roads to lower speeds in those areas. Lower the speed, the more likely people are to avoid a severe crash. So just being very intentional, but also increasing our investments.
You mentioned multimodal safety, and I want to bring back a conversation that you and I had perhaps 15 years ago,
Yeah.
when the focus of my work, just given my training and my background, was to just focus on the highway.
Yeah.
And I think we had different perspectives of looking at the project. You'll probably be happy to hear that over the years, my perspective has changed. I don't look at it in terms of the highway anymore. I look at it in terms of people. The
Yeah.
highway, the people don't, you and I don't exist for the highway. The highway exists for us. So we have to move the people. And you talk about lowering speeds, and that's what I look at these days in my city, in my community. I look at people walking on the sidewalks, especially since COVID. And I think you'll probably
Yep.
agree that since COVID, the number of people who are using trails and walks for recreational purposes has gone up. Would you agree with
Yes.
that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and now we not only do surveys that show in Ohio that more people are walking and biking across the state, but more people want bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure today than they did 10 years ago. So there's a lot more interest in walking and biking, and the more choices we give people to make to move safely within the community helps everybody economically, quality of life. It feeds, higher housing prices. It makes people healthier. So there are a lot of benefits to thinking holistically, particularly in those areas where we have people who want to walk and bike and drive. We want them all to do it together safely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Ohio Turnpike is a rural highway, so we don't have bike lanes and
Yeah.
sidewalks. But guess what? We've got some of the country's best service plazas. And what do
Yeah.
people do when they come there? They get out of their vehicles, they walk around. We've got sidewalks all around. So when you're talking about pedestrian safety and multimodal safety, when people come in with their young children, with their pets, multimodal applies to us as well. Maybe not on the
Yeah.
highway, but in the service plazas where people are congregating to live their lives. So what is the low hanging fruit? What ODOT
Yep.
has this office, your office, which is a
Yep.
separate office only dedicated to safety. What is it that we can look at together to just make a difference?
So there's no question in my mind, and this is really what's driven our evolution of our safety program in Ohio. The Federal Highway Administration has done a tremendous job of identifying proven safety countermeasures backed by research, things that if you do these things, we know that they will reduce fatalities and serious injuries involving these different crash types, whether it's roadway departure, intersection crashes, uh, crashes involving pedestrians. You do these things, you invest in these things, you are likely to see significant reductions in these types of crashes. So we've really focused in on those proven safety countermeasures, encouraged not only our own staff to make these types of investments with our funding, but also encouraged our partners around the state, local government partners, to invest in these types of safety countermeasures, safety investments. I think there's a lot of things that we can do to uh, make safety more visible, make our pavement markings more visible, make our crosswalks more visible, making sure that our crosswalks and are signalized so that when somebody wants to walk across the street, they can send a message to the driver, slow down, I'm getting ready to cross. Making things more visible, separate and safe infrastructure where possible in communities where we have mixed use travel. If we have separate sidewalks, separate bike paths, and shared use facilities, that's certainly better. But if we can't do separate facilities because space doesn't allow, we want to make sure that things are well marked. I also think the nuance within the safety community is starting to shift. 10 years ago, we talked a lot about, well, when it comes to speed, and I think speed is a major factor in a
Great.
lot of our crashes. I also think it's low hanging fruit that if we focus on speed, we could bring down fatalities and serious injuries. And in the old days, we spent a lot of time thinking about, oh, motorists, we need you to slow down. And don't get me wrong, motorists are responsible here. They should be slowing down. But at the same time, we would shirk a little bit of our responsibilities about the role that roadway design has
Yes.
in
Yes.
influencing motorist speeds. And so now I think you're seeing a shift in the engineering community, the planning community, um, in our approach to roadway design. There are roadway features that we can introduce to certain roadways to encourage drivers to go the safe speeds that we want them to within our community. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to think very strategically about how we're designing our roads in certain settings to encourage the speeds that we want from drivers. And then the last thing I will say is that we can all lead by example. And I still have people who come up to me, and I'll give a talk about the importance of not touching or looking at your phone while you're driving. And I still have people in my own community that'll come up to me and say, I know you're right. I'm getting better. Nope. As Yoda would say, there is no try, there's only do. Put down your phone, focus on the road. Your call can wait until you're parked someplace safe where you can respond. We can make choices to lead by example. Same thing with speed. I recently started using these driver performance apps, and it grades my trips after each drive. And over the past 2 years, it has helped me become a safer driver in my community because it's helping me recognize when I went too fast in a certain zone so that I can adjust my driving. It's helped me understand when I've had too many hard braking incidents, which is a sign of risky driving behavior that can lead to a crash. And as a result, that feedback has made me a safer driver. And I think there are lots of apps out there that people can use. I would encourage people to download, test your knowledge. You think you're a good driver? See if you're a good driver.
Wow. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'll tell you, a few years ago, I took a defensive driving course.
Yeah.
That's, we had an instructor in the office, and I said, you know what? I want to take that course as well. He pointed out so many deficiencies in my driving, and that I thought that I became a much better driver having been in the seat with professional teacher next to me,
Right.
telling me what I was doing wrong, and just some of those small things. I think that app is a great idea, and I think people should definitely use that. I like some of the things that you were talking about in terms of making things more visible. You know, when you
Yep.
talk about lane lines and edge lines, we're talking
Yep.
about the most basic low-tech implements, right? But
Right.
but when it's dark and when it's raining, is there anything that's more of a safety implement than a visible lane line or an edge line so you know where you're going? But let's also talk about technology. There's
Yep.
so much out there, and I know you work with some really good technologists as well. What with cars getting safer, with all these
Mhm.
new features being introduced in cars, we have a vision zero, right? Shared vision
Yep.
for all of us who are in transportation and mobility. You think we're going to get there? What will it take for us to get there?
I think we're eventually going to get there, but for the time being, none of us should kid ourselves that that the key isn't being focused on the road and being a intentional driver. We have all this technology to assist us in being a safe driver, but it doesn't take away our personal responsibility to be engaged in what's happening on the road and being able to react quickly and efficiently when that technology tells us that there's some danger or something that we need to pay attention to on the road. So technology is definitely great. Um, I also think that again, going back to these apps, we're getting a lot more information now from telematics data in vehicles and on our phones, and a lot of that data is being anonymized and aggregated, and that data is now available to people working in the transportation safety industry, so that we can understand better what people are doing behind the wheel, even if they don't crash, the risk, it, what things they're doing that might increase crash risk. It also, using telematics data and some of these new tools, it also tells us more about things like near misses. Again, just adding on to traditional sources of data like crash data to better understand what's happening on our roads so that we can better target our education, engineering, and enforcement resources to respond, and including EMS. So a lot of great things happening in the technology realm with telematics data as well.
And all of these things are designed to make our lives better and safer, more convenient.
Yeah.
But as you said, nothing is a substitute for personal responsibility. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about impaired driving, and that when cars are autonomous, it won't be a factor. Of course, it will be. You still have to get in the car, you still have to get out of the car. So there is no technology out there that's going to be a substitute for a person being intentional and deliberate.
Yep.
And Michelle, that is the theme of our campaign this year about
Yeah.
being the highway hero. And you are one such highway hero. I'm familiar with your career, and then everything that we have talked about right now, all the wonderful things that you have shared with us, the great programs that ODOT is conducting, but more than that, the leadership, your leadership and your colleagues to make sure that these things get done. And that is what we mean when we say we want people to be highway heroes. Ultimately, it's on us. We have to have the personal responsibility and be deliberate and intentional about being safe for ourselves and for everybody else out there.
Agreed.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you again, and it's been a pleasure working with you again after so many years.
Agreed. Good to see you, Farzan.
Good to
Thank
see you.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.